Welcome to Project Insight's Power Tutorial Series. Today we're diving into project idea to execution with this 15-minute session designed to help you simplify and streamline your project intake and kickoff process from ideation to execution. These capabilities are designed to increase visibility, reduce risk, and give you greater confidence to scale your operations and align your teams around strategic goals. We'll cover the full intake process, prioritization, review, and approval, and launch all in Project Insight. A few housekeeping notes. Everyone will be on mute. Please feel free to use the chat as we go along if you've got any questions. This will be about 15 minutes long, and this same link that you've joined on will be accessible to view the recording at a later date. I'm Matthew Sparks with the Project Insight team. With me is Steve West, our CEO and founder. Steve, you ready to get going?
Yeah, we are ready to go. This is a really great topic because people often ask us, do you do project intake and what about project intake? And in Project Insight, there's really three main ways that you may intake a project. Number one is just start a project. You can start it in a planning mode so that you can build it all out and the project won't be sending notifications out until you're ready to go. Another way is through the project request form, where you may have a little more formal process where you don't really want a project in your queue yet, but you're thinking about a list of projects or a list of things that you want to do. You need to prioritize them, log them, capture the business requirements, maybe some budget and resource information, that kind of thing. So the project request is another great way to do initiation, and the way we'll show you this. We separate out the requests from the project so that you can keep that list separate from what's going on right now. And then the third way is through our proposals. You might be doing business for somebody and get an order, and the proposal allows you to do all the same things that the project request does, but also keep track of deliverables and the budget and how much of that's billed. So those are like the three main things. And then another thing to consider is a lot of times people confuse requests of like minor changes to, say, a product, like a software product or something you're doing, from actually a whole giant project. And we're not really going to get into that today, but you can do that in Project Insight with our issues or using a backlog in a regular project for, like, these are the bugs or these are feature requests. They can be escalated into a project request, but a lot of times people get confused with those little things that you want to do as far as your ongoing activities. That doesn't necessarily mean it's an entire project. So just in your mind, this is more focused on bigger initiatives. So go ahead and let's take it away.
Yeah, that is the initiative, right? I love the flexibility that's offered here in the different methodologies. And one of the other
Right.
part to note here before we jump in is you don't have to pick just one as an organization using our platform, right? You could use all of these methodologies
That's
within
right.
your workspace. So this is the first one that Steve had gone over. This is just adding a project. So you can see here on the project add screen where I can type in, this is my new big project. I have the ability to use any templates that we have in play. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one called branch build. That's going to then auto-populate some of the fields that have been associated with that particular template. You can also then add in, what portfolio is this a part of, what program, really any of the standard pieces of Project Insight based on what you have, including what's the priority to get this particular piece done. I can set a start date associated with this particular project, which I'm going to set this guy out for the first week of August here. And before I actually click save to create this, I'm going to quickly click on a project resource allocation report that we have queued up, just to highlight the differential between projects that we've committed to and projects that we have in a planning state. And I'm doing that because we're going to see this green bar after we refresh it here in a moment bump up based on the tasks, based on the assignments within this new project that we're kicking off. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. That's going to then bring in the task list associated with this particular project, again, based on the template itself. This
Yeah.
can, oh, sorry, Steve.
Yeah, and note that is in a planning state, meaning it's not active yet. In that chart he showed you, the green section was for
Planning projects specifically, that's right. Yep. So if we go back to the chart, number one, first we'll see the different
Right.
tasks that are in here. This template can bring in tasks and risks and documents and anything that we need. All we're really going to be looking at is the allocation perspective right now. If I go through here now and refresh this particular page, we're going to see that that graph on top is now a little bit thicker from those planning project or that one that we just created there, right, Steve?
That's right, because in the capacity reports, you have the option to pull in your planning projects or just one planning project to do a little bit of a what if scenario.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of, this may be further along for some of the requests. Like you don't really need to do this when you're thinking about a new project, but sometimes you do because you think it's really going to happen. So we're showing you the real simple case of, hey, we're thinking about doing a project. We're bypassing this request process. We know it's going to happen. We're building a work breakdown structure, either top down or bottom up, and we want to see how busy that's going to make us.
You can see on this report even the, the resources associated with it, the difference between the forecasting or those planning projects and the ones that
Right.
we've committed to. And then even on their individual capacity, the yellow or gray, which we've covered this in past tutorials, are those planning projects specifically, right? So,
Yeah, the green is what's active, and the gray is anything under their capacity that they are getting assigned because of the planning project. And then the
right.
yellow above the line is over allocation because of the planning. And any red over the line is because something active is overdue. You can see
Is
there. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And to Steve's point, you can come into the filter. You can decide what you're actually viewing. So I'm viewing all active projects. You can get more specific if you want. I can only just look at that big new project that we
Right.
have, or even perform those what if scenarios. So what if the big new project started 3 weeks later than we just kicked it off? You can do all of that right here as well. So
Or if
um,
you, what if can also be, I want to, what if I shift an existing active project? You could do that.
good call out, Steve.
Mhm.
Both of those. So, but again, this is just one methodology where I'm starting with an actual project request, the add project form. This next approach is often used if there's governance needed, if I have an idea and I want Steve to review it, or maybe we have this open to anybody can come in and fill this request format as it can be public facing, so you can use it without a license, and then in that way somebody can say, "This is my new big idea," right? They have the ability again, and this can all pre-populate where it's, who is it assigned to? Is it going to go through a governance, project review team before it goes through? Who's associated with the project? What type? What's the priority here as well, right,
Yeah.
Steve? In the idea that this is critical. I need this
Right.
done, guys.
And this form can be whatever you want. We have default fields that you can turn on and off or add your own custom fields. There are many different variations of a project request form. Almost every client we see has a different looking one or different inputs and requirements they need to gather. So this form, we just made it really simple for this demo, can be more sophisticated as simple as you want or more complex depending on your needs of like what requirements you need to gather for your project idea list.
That's so true. You can also have different fields pop up based on the type of work, right? Continuous
Yeah.
improvement may drive some of those
Mhm.
custom fields that Steve's talking about here.
Yeah, and
Um,
one common thing that happens when we onboard people is they have multiple different forms. Each group and department has their own, and
yep,
really you want to get your whole organization to have a standardized process. Even if there are extra fields that one team needs versus another, most often there is an intersection of fields that can be used to judge one project against another. The other great thing is that using the request, you don't actually put these ideas onto the dashboards yet. Like they're not, we're thinking about it. We need to gather information. We need to see this. They're completely separate from a project and can be converted, or a project can be launched from these requests.
that's right. That's a good call out. So you're not going to see that allocation. You're not going to see it in any of the other reporting of where a project is active or budget pieces, really, even because this is kind of that governance we're going through. Do we want to do this or not?
Yeah, it's
So
pre-planning. It's really
that's right.
pre-project planning before you know you're going to do it. This is what we think we're going to do. They can be things that are happening next month or 2 years from now.
That's right. You can also include a scorecard in this system, right? This is the idea that you can do this now or later, where somebody can come in here and actually decide how this aligns with the business objectives or the goals that you've set with for the
Mhm.
organization. So in this way, if I go ahead and save this one that we created here, I'm going to go into a project request report, and I'm going to just quickly run the filter again so it reruns this report. And I'm going to see that new one we just created, the new big idea. You can see that it's through here. I have that critical priority. The scores are against one another, just like any of the other list views or reporting in Project Insight. It's a drag and drop. I can right click to get in the columns or remove the pieces that I don't. So if we really are only caring about what is coming in as critical, we can then click on this. We can see the data that had already been input. And then to Steve's point, I can now create a project from that if we get the green light on it, right?
Yeah, and in any of the fields you've entered, like your business requirements, attachments, and documents, or even comments, they'll get automatically copied over to the project. And then this request will be closed because now you have a project for it,
Yep.
and the request is closed, but the project's open. So then it'll drop off your idea list. The other thing about that report that Matt was showing is that he put the scorecard in, and you can sort that by the score, not just the priority. So you can, if you want a real simple way to do it, here's your priority list,
Yep.
high, medium, and low. Or if you want a scorecard where you're like, this is how it impacts revenue, or it makes something more streamlined, and then that gives you a way to weight one project against another a little more evenly. And that's what the scorecards are for. Again, those are all what your questions might be because every organization has different priorities.
One of the other things that's nice about the scorecard functionality here is you do have the ability to then even just say, hey, we're not even going to look at anything unless it's above 20, right? And then that way it's
Yeah,
really clear to know what you're going to prioritize.
yeah,
The the last option that we have for this kind of flow that we went through, again, I can create a project, I can use that request form through government governance or this idea of a proposal. So we have had work sold, right? Work has been sold. This can be tied to a company specifically. I can tie it to locations. I can use specific rate cards. These are a lot of those same fields that we've seen on the other pages, right, Steve?
yeah. It's very similar. I mean, the questions that you might ask yourself in a proposal or a request or even a project are similar. Like, here's your business requirements. Here are the stakeholders. Those are all the same common things. So all of these items, whether they're a proposal or a request or a project, are going to have very common sets of fields. Again, you can just check a box for on off for each field you want, add your own custom ones. But in this case, a proposal is generally something that your salesperson just sold something and you need to, the requirements came from the sales process. That's what this is for. And we're showing you how to make one manually, but a lot of our customers who do this automate that process from Salesforce, NetSuite, you name it, whatever CRM system. That's a really key project initiation process, very often just integrated through the API.
That's right. Yeah, they come in right. I
Yep,
mark this as a one piece, or it goes into that disposition within Salesforce, and then it auto feeds this into Project Insight. You
yep.
have the ability to create and affiliate from a project at that point in time as well. In this particular instance, I'm going to leave the affiliation blank and just go ahead and save this work sold proposal. If I go back in, I can click into the proposal itself and see the deliverables that were done, whether they're hours and time, whether they're actual
Hmm.
fixed kind of bid ideas. This then will roll into that proposal style report. I'm going to just quickly rerun this one so we can see that new work sold one right here, where I have then the ability to then click into it, edit it, affiliate it with a project the same way that I could have on that project request form as well.
Yeah, and the
So,
two there at the top are new orders. So this
yep,
becomes a queue, literally a queue for work that needs to be done for your team. And those proposals, project requests, can be assigned to somebody and routed to them directly or to a team of people like for triage. So this
right.
is very common. The benefit of the proposal process, especially if you're doing services, is that it does the same things as the request does, but you can track all the budgets and use that to help you forecast your invoice dates and then actually invoice and see what your progress is against those deliverables. So it's really a great way to manage all the orders. Because normally, without something like this, you get a new order, there's an email that goes out to your PM team, and then they got to manually enter all that stuff. And then they have like a printout of the order. They don't actually have the order like digitized with data that can be compared to the actual plan.
You can move all of these deliverables into the WBS even, right? On
That's
your
right, you
project
could,
plan if
yeah, you
that's what
can
you
do
want.
that.
So
It's
it,
not, I don't know that that's the recommended process, but some people do that where it might be simple enough deliverables where you can just make a task out of every line. But very often the order lines don't line up with like the actual work that has to be done. And that's why those are separated so
right.
that you can see here's what the order was, but our project plan has to be this to really get this done. But we can look at the proposal and the project to see how are we doing on this project? Are we under budget or over budget? It's very easy to see that information because you've got two different entities like your objects that you're assisting looking at in our system.
That's right. All of this being powered off of the add-ons. So just to kind of give that recap. So the idea is I can come in here, I can enable that project request methodology, I can enable that proposal methodology, I can have that obviously project piece there within that planning state based on the project statuses that we've set. If this is something that you need any assistance with being a customer of ours, please reach out to your account manager. They're happy to assist you. If this is something that you think can be put to work for your business, please reach out to sales@projectinsight.com. We're happy to show you how this can make your processes more streamlined as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, everybody. Saw a couple clients in there on the chat, so thanks for attending the webinar, and please call us if you have any questions.
Yeah. Thank you.